Chandler, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. It's been too long. Can't wait to, glad you're getting things going again. Good to see and hear your voice. It's going to be a good year.
Yeah, you as well. It's definitely great to be back. It's always weird too, because it's been months. So yeah, these podcasts, it feels a little foreign, but it's good though. It feels good to be back. So
welcome back.
Let's go. That's it. So we're talking media today, how to create better media. This is something you know a lot about, and whether you're listening today, you're a business owner, you are a church leader, even if you're just trying to step your media game up personally, be sure to listen into this conversation, because I'm really excited to hear what Chandler has to say. But with you working mainly with churches, Chandler, I guess starting off, why is it important for you to kind of create better media for churches?
Let me give you context for those listening right now to the podcast. I am not what you would call necessarily a creative. I am actually not a graphic designer. I do care about the way things look, the way things are presented, the way things, I think it matters. I think it mattered to, for me, in my faith, being a Christian. I think that Jesus was a man, of excellence, the way he presented, himself, his life, the gospel, grace, love, all that. And I think, growing up in the church, being in ministry and in business, and, having exposure to, churches, lots of churches, big, small, rural, whatever. And even businesses, like, I think I've come across so many, great businesses or churches that have at the core, their product or what they're offering, their service is good, but their presentation of their brand, their service, who they are, their mission is bad. And I think in being a church leader, it's like, I think what we offer as Christians, the gospel, this grace, the salvation, for me, it's the best, thing that's being offered on this world. And I think when churches, we don't take the time to present it, through imagery, visually, art, whatever. I think it takes it. I don't know if I want to say it takes away from it, but I think that we should make sure that we're adding to it, that it what I say is, the gospel deserves good graphics, or it deserves to be not just communicated well, but also displayed artistically, all those things. I think it matters, whether it's, again, the church or even a business, like how you present, and how the perception, good or bad, motives, good or bad, whether, whatever it is, it matters in people. I mean, I was having a conversation with the guy today, one of our staff, one of the guys on staff, and we were doing some research for our studio, and we're trying to find this backdrop. And I told him, I was like, man, I hate, like, when I go to, I don't hate, but it's like when I go to a website for a company and their website's really bad, I just automatically I'm just like, nope, I'm not going to check this out. Because for me, it's like, if you don't have time to make your website look decent, I just don't think your product's going to be that great, which that might not be true. But I say that to say that, I think that, whether it's a business, you as a person, I think the way that you present yourself, I think it matters, and people are looking at that. So.
Yeah. And you talked about, the gospel, and I think in any arena, even if we were to look at, maybe you own a coffee business, and if your post or your media doesn't look great, I think that you're not only giving, truthfully, and you could argue this, but you're not only giving your company a bad name, but you're kind of giving coffee a bad name. And I think the same is true in our church experience. We have to realize that if we're promoting this gospel, that is changing people's lives, it could give our church a bad name, but ultimately it could literally give Christianity a bad name. And I think so many people are looking for that hope. And if that first impression of hope is something that is lackluster, or wasn't, wasn't really executed the way that you could have executed it, we leave a lot on the table. And so I think
Yeah.
it's critical to just make sure that we are putting value on these things, because a lot of people are seeing it ultimately, and it needs to be focused on.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. I also think even the way people present themselves, I think that, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to bash anybody. I think if anything, I hope that people listening to this, if I can encourage you to, whether it's your personal brand in the sense of the way you dress, the way you present yourself, or your company, is just be intentional about what you're trying to communicate, not just in the products you're selling or the service you're providing, but in your design, in your graphics, in your photos. Think about what you're trying to say. My one of my good friends is a graphic designer, and when I've got to create some stuff with him, and there's a process. Like we're not just slapping some logos. Like he's brilliant because he's going, okay, what are you? He's asking, what's the mission of your company or the organization? What colors do you want? How do you want people to feel when they see this? Like it all ties in, because whether we realize it or not, whether it's a billboard or a graphic or whatever you're trying to communicate digitally, it's making people feel something, and it does matter. And I think we just got to be intentional about it. You don't have to go and spend a bunch of money, but find someone or that person that can help you flesh that out, so that way, when people are seeing whatever it is, whether it's a website or something, it's communicating something, that it's intentional. I just think that's important.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've had similar experiences too, to where I've got on, whether it's as simple as the food I'm ordering, you know what I mean, or maybe a bigger purchase or a bigger investment. And if the interface isn't user friendly, you know what I mean, or if it just looks terrible, I'm the same way. It's like I'm just going somewhere else. And I think that there's probably a lot of people who are just not aware of it. You know what I mean? Maybe they just
For sure.
uh, wouldn't consider themselves creative, or maybe they just wouldn't find strength in that, but they want to improve it. Practically, where can we start, Chandler? So, maybe you've never had good content before, or maybe you've never really leaned in and been intentional with your media. What's some fundamental things we can start with?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because I I wouldn't say I'm like naturally, like I said earlier, I'm not a creative. I think I've learned, and I've exposed myself to, enough companies and branding, and, even magazines and fashion and architecture. Like, uh, you know, I know what looks good. Not always. I think I think, depending on what industry you're in, who's the best at it? Who are some of the best? See what they're doing. Like, it's okay to, I'm not giving you permission to, straight rip someone off, but get exposure. Like, go search, get on. One of my greatest things when it comes to branding, print pieces, I mean, fashion, decorating houses, architecture, just ideas in general. Pinterest is one of the greatest places. And I'm saying Pinterest. And if you are a business person, you're, whether whatever it is, especially guys, I feel like most guys are like, Pinterest. Why would I use Pinterest? I'm like, that's fine. Maybe you don't need to, but that is one of the greatest places to get inspiration. Because I don't necessarily know. I can't create from nothing, in the sense of like what I, visual, like going from like in my head to a piece of paper. But I know if I can see something, hey, I like these elements and I like these colors, and I get the right person. I think the big thing is you got to find the right people. You got to find the right, whether that's a designer, whether that's, an artist, and you gotta, and that might take some time. Now I'm a people person, like I'm people skills, and that's my natural bent. But I like like connecting with people. Like that's just what I love to do. And so I've been able to, when I have a problem or have a need, I go and search for it. And I've been fortunate enough, to find those right people that can help, kind of draw out in me and take what I think I have in my head or what I want and put it into paper. And that takes time. I mean, you were just talking about, your branding, and you went on Fiverr and paid some guy $10 and it was like garbage. That
Yeah.
might happen, and that's okay, because even if you have to spend some money and you get stuff that you don't want, at least you know what you don't want
Right.
on the journey to get what you need. But you're going to have to find the right person. It doesn't always have to cost a lot of money, but I would say it matters, especially when it comes to logo and long-term longevity branding. I think it matters, and I think it's like, I think you should spend the money up front, if you have to. But man, go find the people, have some conversations with friends, and figure out what you want and what you want to communicate, because there's a whole world of graphics and graphic people and artists, and they all have different bends. So I would say, one, try to figure out, like, one, what is, obviously you got to know what your company, your branding, your person, what the vision, the mission, what you're trying to communicate, and see what other people are doing, get some inspiration. And I think having some people that you trust that can speak into it, if you're not that creative person, that can tell you, yeah, that looks good, that makes sense, that's cool. Or they can also go, I think the biggest problem with people is they don't have people in their life that can be honest with them and say, hey, that doesn't look good, or that doesn't make sense, or it's too complicated, or it's too simple. If you don't have those people that can be real with you on both sides, that's, I think sometimes you can get into trouble, because it's like, yeah, maybe to you it looks good, but to your customers, to the target market you're trying to communicate, does that make sense to them?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think something that resonates too with me is you can usually tell. So even if you might have a different eye than me when it comes to graphics, or, the people listening, we all could have a different taste, just like we have different tastes in our mouth. But I think that we can all recognize when individuals spend time with some things, and I think that we can all see when there was work being put into it. And I think you can look at the bigger brands, even the smaller brands, but you look at bigger brands like Starbucks. I was talking about coffee. Obviously, they're doing something right, and so we can look to those companies. And like you said, we're not talking about copyright infringements, but get inspiration. Actually, one thing I love to do, and Pinterest is great, but my go-to is I always find just inspiration on IG. And so on Instagram, if I see something, I have probably 20 folders, literally. So I got a folder for a few projects that I'm working on right now. I got a podcast folder. You know what I mean? I even got a clothing folder. It's like anything that I find inspiration in, and I'm going to put that and save that into that folder. And I think that, it's important to get those different ideas, or whatever your region is. If it's church, then look up the live churches, or, the mosaics, and see who's doing it best and the most efficiently. Or if you're a construction, business owner, look and see what the top earners are doing and what their graphics look like. And then again, just, spend time on those things. But moving from this, Chandler, is there anything, I guess, even talking about inspiration, is there a tool that can be best used for people, getting just really practical? Because I know Canva is obviously a big one. But are there better tools, do you think, that we can implement to improve this media we're putting out?
I mean, I'm sure there's more. I don't know everything. I think, for me in my context, what I've learned and kind of figured out is, one, when I have an original design, whether it's something that I can use long term, I try to get my designer I try to ask my designer to give me something that's kind of like a foundation piece. And that way in Canva, I can add to it, but I'm not taking away from it. Because I think a lot of times with Canva is great, but you can still mess Canva up. You can still make not good stuff. And I've even had to, there's been times where I've had to stop myself, or, I think I put something together real quick, and it's like, one of my, team members or something's like, it doesn't really look sharp. And I'm like, okay. I think you gotta, and again, this is probably how I'm wired, is when I see a problem or a gap or a position that needs to be filled or whatever, I always just go, it's like a mission for me to find someone to meet that need. I'm going to start asking around. I'm going to start, like kind of building a team more or less. And that takes time. I think in the church world, you want to empower people, and on some level we pay, we have graphic designers that we pay, but we also have people on our team that have some skill, that can put stuff together and move stuff around. So, I think there's, over in Canva and, Adobe Spark, some of those simple ones. I think some of the Adobe Spark stuff's great because, you can just take a photo and add some movement to it, and, real simple stuff. I think sometimes people, you want to overcomplicate it. I think, especially if you have good photos, or, whatever, it's like, man, keep it simple. Like, you don't have to overdo it. But I do think, at some level, for me, the greatest tools, which sounds bad. I don't mean like, they're a tool, but the greatest tool is our people, or finding the people that
Yeah,
can
yeah,
help.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, and whether that's, volunteer, or finding the right people to work with you. I think that's important.
yeah.
So as far as tools go, I've Canva's been a good one because you can do team stuff, but I've also realized, like for me, I've got to stay away from it because I can mess up a cool graphic really fast just trying to do something simple.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get that for sure, and I think what you said there is true. I mean, because we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses, and I think that if this is something that you hate doing, you know what I mean? Yeah, find people, and even it could be an intern, you know what I mean, and they're doing it for free, but it's giving
Or
them exposure, you know?
use the templates that are on there and don't change them that much. Maybe
Yeah,
change
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
colors and
exactly.
stuff, and just stick with the templates,
Yeah,
and don't feel like you have to do, a bunch of extra stuff.
yeah,
Or, if you need to buy templates or so there, I mean, there's so many websites out there
yeah.
that you can get that stuff, and then you're just plugging and playing, and you're making it happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for maybe people that don't have the ability to sub that workout, or maybe they just want to, they feel like they have it as a strength, but it needs sharpened. With you in church, obviously, a church graphic, when somebody comes in and they're looking at that church graphic the whole time, somebody's speaking, it's like that's important to be sharp, or even anything posted on social media, those things need to be sharp. And so, what makes a good graphic to you? And then as a follow-up question, what makes a terrible graphic in your opinion?
Man, I mean, that's tough. I'll say it like this: is in our context, being in a church is, and I think this applies to any organization, is that we have a playbook for social media photography, and we have expectations, and we communicate that as far as what we post, what we don't post, what we're looking for. We use the same filter in seasons, so that way our photos look consistent. There's some consistency. We like we also have a team that do pretty well in being honest with each other, in the sense of, hey, not a big fan, hey, we need to change that up. And that's not always easy to find, those people that that are open to critique, and they're not going to be offended if you're like, I don't really like that, can you do something different. um I mean, there's so many things. Like, again, I think simplicity is just, these days, it's
Yeah,
like I would take good photos over graphics any day. And I know
yeah,
that's tough, but the truth is that, taking a good photo is not that hard these days. If you got a decent iPhone or a decent camera, and you can buy a preset, you can make some decent photos. I mean, even video these days. I mean, the photo video world is unlimited. Like, I tell young people all the time, I'm like, if you have any sort of inclination that you would want to do this, and you have any kind of skill, or just even some drive, you can make a lot of money, because everyone's looking for some photos or video editors and all that stuff. I mean, it's like like, I wish I had the patience to do it, because I've got friends that I know that just make insane money,
yeah,
because they know how to edit a video. Like,
yep,
and and I'm not saying it's like super easy at some level, but like, it's just, it's important. You know Dude, bad graphic, that's such a hard, I mean, I'm sure there's some like technical terms with, weight, and
yeah,
and
yeah,
color, and too much, too less, whatever. I think I would say, most bad graphics are created from people who don't have exposure to greater things. And I mean, that's life. Not everyone is going to create great looking stuff. Um, um, but I don't know if I could tell you exactly what makes a bad graphics. Probably
No,
anything with
but
the
I think that even that though, I mean, just yeah, it's like the basic principle of even the post not being too busy. You know what I mean? Because if there's something to where you have 5 times too much information on that, I know I've seen those posts and I don't even know where to look. You know what I mean? And so some of it is just, like I said, simplicity, making sure that the consumer is aware of what you're even posting about and it's easy for them to notice. I think it's important.
Yeah, and again, too, I think it also depends on the different good, bad, whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's all opinion. It all
Yeah.
depends
Yeah.
on your target market
Mhm.
and who you're trying to communicate to and all that stuff. Because I think there's some things aren't necessarily bad. They're just not like
Right.
they're nothing special.
Right.
And there's stuff that you see, you're like, whoa, like
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
is crazy. And
Mhm.
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm trying to like.
But I think too, like it's the principle of beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Because I know, like I said, with different things, maybe there's something that I would love to post, and then Beck's like, "Hey, that's a hard no for me." And so it's like I know that there's a lot of different things, but I
I mean,
just
like I would say, like Amazon, their graphic is not that great. Like it
right,
communicates,
right,
they update it with the package, and Amazon A to Z. They sell everything from A to Z. Like
hmm
I don't really think I'm not impressed. Like Apple, man, they're so simple.
yeah,
I'm intrigued. I'm still by them and the way they package things. I think they've got us all brainwashed. I think sometimes I like different things for different reasons depending on what it is.
right,
But again, I think it depends. I think the best thing, really important thing, is what you're actually trying to communicate. I think it needs
right,
to
right,
match up
exactly,
with you
exactly,
know because then you get into the other side. The bad side of branding and perception is you're presenting something that's actually not what you know you're trying to present yourself in a way that you're actually not. That's actually that's lying. That's not. So you can get into that side where that
yeah,
that,
yeah,
that
yeah,
does happen. I think the more important thing is that the intentionality behind that. Can you try to communicate in your branding or in your media,
yeah.
like who you are, and it's all being consistent? I think that's what's important.
I agree. I agree 100%. So, with engagement in media specific to social media, are there things we can watch out for to implement that will get more engagement? You talked about how, a good photo is worth a lot. And I know personally, if I get it on IG, just personally, this is me personally, I'm a lot more apt to engage with a picture of somebody, especially if somebody I know, than I would be, a quote made on Canva on a graphic that I've seen 7 times this week. Do you know what I mean? So, are there like things that we can do to push more engagement with our media?
That's a question that you know I'm constantly asking. I think people want real. I think
Yeah,
people want personal. I think people would
yeah,
rather follow a person than a brand. Um, it's on some levels, unless you're in some massive. I think like being realistic at some level too. People want to see behind the scenes. What's the story? Answer the questions. Um, you know, like think media Sean Cannell, they always talk about, people want to see the process, even if you're not an expert or you're not, you know, like whatever, you're just starting out. People like the process. People like to know that it's not just some, like super fake, perfectly whatever. I think people want real more than they do, something that's super. I think more than now, whether it's social media or starting YouTube or whatever, I think it's one of the easiest times in the sense that, like, if you've got something that you love and you got you're doing it. I think people want to watch that. Like I feel like a lot of the channels even on YouTube that I watch are just like, it's people building cars or doing, like, it's just like this. You're almost following what they're doing and they're building, and yeah, there's mess ups and it's not perfect, but it's like I like it. Like I like the
yeah,
fact
yeah,
that there's got like one of my favorite channels, Cletus McFarland. Like he's got millions of subs, and they shoot most of their stuff on their phones. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
you know what I mean? And like that's crazy. And they're just funny, and it's, it's not, it's not high, and, it's just, they're fun guys. And I think people want to see that, even with businesses, like the process, who you are, who's on your team. Like it's when you make it personal about, your team, yourself, and with others, that's what people connect with. I mean, it's just coming down to, even building relationships and connecting with people.
yeah,
If people value vulnerability and authenticity, and I think that's really what it's people, that's what's going to kind of shake the market from just, like some great photos, or
yeah, yeah,
well put together posts or whatever.
yeah, yeah. And I think there's nothing wrong with those fillers. And I think looking
No.
back, I can think too. I just think we have to be. It's got to be a decent balance, because I can look and we can all see what engagements get more than others. But on businesses specifically, I know for a fact I've seen businesses post after post is, maybe it's a fact, you know what I mean? And that's a cool aspect of it. Maybe it's a fact about that business, or maybe it's a promotion for an event, but it seems like there's always just so much more engagement when it is, like you said, personal, when there's a face with a video, or a face, it may be a highlighting a team member of that company. And so yeah, I think
Educating
it's,
people, I think that's one of the best things you can do.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
exactly.
if you're a realtor, stop talking about what houses are for sale, and start teaching people, like, about the market, about what to look for, about how to
Yeah,
find houses themselves, about, like, just, if you're educating and you're actually really, it's your, if you're will be willing to help serve, and like educate, and like you're giving people, that's what will buy you, like, equity, and they might
yeah,
potentially go with you, not because you're cheaper, or whatever, but because, like, man, they really helped me, and they've really, they're being honest about the market, and they're not, like they're not trying to sell me, they're actually just trying to help me find a house, or how to look for a house,
yeah.
whatever area you're in. I think that's when you actually are just genuinely trying to help people. I think that says a lot to customers, or whoever you're trying to reach.
Yeah, I agree. Last, Chandler, I know this question too will be a lot more specific depending on what market you're in. But are there any, platforms that you think you might see more success now? Maybe you can speak straight from a church perspective. And again, I know it's based on what market you're in. So some markets will do better on Facebook, some markets will do better on YouTube. But is there anything that maybe we should be paying more attention to, or getting on as far as trends go?
I mean, from my experience, I think there's still a lot of opportunity on YouTube. I think that whether you're a business owner, church leader, in the church world, I think if more churches would just stop looking at YouTube like, we stream Sunday morning services, and start putting out more content, and that, content as far, it could be leadership, discipleship,
Yeah,
stories, testimonies, stuff like that. I think that's something we've been, at our church working on. We're building out a studio, nothing fancy, but we want to start, like, what are we communicating to our church content wise from Monday to Saturday, and it's not just going to be about our senior pastor, but it's going to be people's stories, conversations,
yeah,
different stuff. I think there's still a huge. I think pastors and churches could reach a lot of people, even more by doing stuff like that. I think too, it depends on your church. Like for our church, it's a unique situation. So we are a very Facebook heavy church. So a lot of our engagement, our ads and stuff are on Facebook. The younger generation. I mean, whether you want to or not, I mean, TikTok is probably, from what I've seen, is probably one of the easiest way. Like, you can blow up on TikTok insanely fast if you have a decent kind of hook and you're consistent with it. I'm like, I don't have the like I think my pride's too big to get on there and try to do something stupid. I just am kind of like, I feel like, but I also say this to anybody that's maybe feeling like, there's so much to do. Yeah, there is a lot to do. So figure out where your target market is, and just for a season, just focus on that.
Yeah.
Like just, if it is Facebook, then just like for a season, just don't worry about everything else. Focus on Facebook. Don't get so overwhelmed by, YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. It's like, figure out where your market is, figure out where you're getting the most traction, focus on that for a season, or, spend the money and hire someone to do it for you. I don't know. I mean,
yeah. Both great options. Cool. Thank you, Chandler, so much for coming on. That's helpful.
Anytime, bro. I'm excited to see the more episodes come out. Hopefully people like this. If you're listening, like, subscribe, share, leave a 5-star review.